Hello coaches and welcome to my channel. I am thrilled you are here. Today I will be going over part 1 of a 10-week program. This is a program that I have created here at our club. This is based on my background with a WFPF certification, so that's World Freerunning Parkour Federation. I am a level 3 certified coach through them. I am also a level 2 certified coach with Canadian Gymnastics. So the way I see it is that everybody has a completely different setup, a completely different gym, different equipment, different locations, whether you're inside, outside, have lots of things or little, whether you are completely just pushed into a corner by all the other groups in the gym, or whether you have a huge space. So it doesn't matter if you are in a gymnastics club, a parkour club, or a school gymnasium. I hope that with these videos, you will be able to provide a parkour program in whatever setting you have available to you. First up, we have our quadrupedal movement. So that is how we move across the floor or across an obstacle, usually in between two separate skills. It usually ties them together and it continues your motion just so you don't lose any power while you're doing your line. So for this age group in particular, I'm not going to do the full quadrupedal movement because it is more of a gallop motion. For these guys, for the ages 4 to 6, I'm going to do just sideways hands and feet. As I'm coaching this skill, I'm not going to call it the quadrupedal movement. I call it the monkey walk or the ninja walk or something like that to make it sound cool. Notice as I'm doing this, I'm keeping my hips low to the ground and I'm able to see in front of me. That's a big one, especially as they get into the higher levels and they're starting to tie skills together. You want them to be able to see where they're going. So get in the habit of getting their hips down low, having their hands nice and flat on the ground, 2 hands and 2 feet. Something you are probably going to see is them doing a frog jump, like this. Okay? We don't want that. That's why as I'm instructing this drill, I am using my words the entire time. 2 hands, 2 feet. 2 hands, 2 feet. If you're finding that they're still having troubles with it, slow it down and make the hand part a slap so that there's a sound attached to it. If they are seeming like they're progressing with that one really well and you're wanting to move on to the next step, this is also a good opportunity for you to introduce a ground Kong. So that is when they do 2 hands and 2 feet going forwards. So keeping our knees together, 2 hands, 2 feet. Again, you're going to see them do a frog jump. We don't want to do that, okay? We want them to go 2 hands and 2 feet. That was the first one. Moving on to the next step. All right, guys, next up is the cat hang. A cat hang means you are hanging from a ledge and your feet are pushed on the wall in front of you. My hands are going to be holding on the ledge, and then my feet are going to be placed against the wall. That's all it is. So that's the basic cat hang. Variations for this one. Obviously, not every gym has a wall that you can just hang on, so you have to get a little bit creative. Generally, my go-to would be a vault. The trapezoid ones, they're flat on the top. They have different levels. You can make them higher or lower. If they have a tendency to tip, I think one of our vaults does sometimes, so we ended up screwing it together and that's fine. But if the pieces come apart, you are going to want to hold that down because there's a lot of pulling happening on the one side. Also, because the kids have a tendency to go over with their hands, they may pull the box back and we don't want that. So that would be somewhere where I would stand and spot. If you are in a school gym, some of you are lucky enough to still have those ladder systems on the wall. 100% you can use those. Last one, I'm gonna go back over to the bar and I'm gonna show you how to do a vertical pole cat. Okay, this one is definitely by far one of the favorite challenges that I can get the kids to do in my class, and it's the vertical pole cat. So with this one, obviously there's no ledge to grab on up here, so we are gonna put our hands one on top of the other, and the feet are in exactly the same position. One is slightly elevated above the other one on the bar, okay? So all it is like this. Easy enough. All right, so extra little coaching tip, As the kids progress into your program farther, you can bring this one out, start adding just a little bit of a jump to it, okay? So that would mean that I'm standing over here, I'm reaching to the bar, and then I have to jump my feet onto the bar and jump back, okay? That's too easy, then they start jumping their hands and their feet at the same time. All right, that is it for the cat hang. Moving on to strides next. Next up is the stride. Yes, it looks like a run. In the first few weeks of the Introduction to Parkour class, that's all it's going to look like, and that's okay. What we're trying to do with them is have them be aware of where they're stepping with their feet as they're doing the motion. As we move into the more recreational parkour, so as they get a little bit older, we can break down the skill just a little bit more just to get every extra bit of motion and power into that stride. But for right now, all we're wanting to do is have them be aware of where their feet are landing. So in this space of the gym, we have lots of different Velcro strips laying on the ground, and this is where I start with my Introduction to Parkour kids. I get them started low and on the ground. No obstacles, nothing to fall off of just yet. If you don't have Velcro strips, we have lots of other options. Okay, in our gym we have lots of different other options if you don't have Velcro strips on the floor. So these are just a couple of them. So we have twister circles, we have, I don't even know what these are, oven grip things, you know, they take hot pans out of the oven. Yeah, those, that's what these are. I don't even know what this is, okay? Got it at Dollarama, it's a rubber mat. It's probably like a trivet or something like that. These work great because they don't slide on the carpet. Last one are these flowers, okay? I probably wouldn't use them with a ninja program in particular, but hey, I mean, if you have it, use it. Again, basically, it looks just like a run, but we are being intentional on where we are putting our feet. I'm gonna show you that. So yeah, that one's basic strides. You can use that one in your warm-up activity. So say you have space on like just a great big blue floor, use those strides as your warm-up. So use the lines to your advantage, jump line to line. If you can, add extra Velcro strips just for these younger ages. That way it gives them an opportunity to succeed and actually land on the line. 6 feet is a little bit wide for some of these little guys to be jumping. Moving on to whatever the next one is. All right. We are getting to the good stuff now. So we are doing our very first vault progression on our week 1. First of all, step vault progressions. The very first thing you want to know is it is an opposite hand and an opposite foot. What I will actually get the kids to do is I will get them to stand up and lift up one hand and lift up one foot, like opposite, one hand, opposite foot. That way they know what the word opposite means. Then I'm gonna find a line. Again, using a visual cue to help them understand the motion. So I have my line. I'm gonna take my hand and my opposite foot and put them on the line. One hand, opposite foot. From here, this is where I'm going to take my other leg and I'm going to start from behind and take it all the way forward and then all the way backwards. All the way forwards and all the way backwards. Sit down, shake your arms out. Whew, that was a really good exercise. Now we're gonna do the other side. All right, take our other hand and our opposite foot. And yes, this is the way I would teach it in our warm-up situation. That way when we get to the circuit, they already know the progression and I can give them an obstacle to actually use this progression over top of, which I'll get to in just a second here. So from here, again, hand, opposite foot, I'm going behind, I'm kicking through, and I'm coming back. I'm kicking through, and I'm coming back. We're doing that progression during warm-up, all right? We're doing it all together. That way you as the coach can see every person doing it at the same time, and you can tweak anything that needs to be tweaked. Once you've tweaked everything, you're confident to bring them to the next step, which will be in their circuit, which will be with an obstacle in front of them. Next, we have our obstacle. This is not a big obstacle. This is nice and low. It's safe for these guys to practice their movement on. Then we can progress a little bit higher as they get better at the skill. All right, so back to our opposite hand and opposite foot. Opposite hand, opposite foot. Now, with this, because there is an obstacle here, sometimes these little guys, again, need a sound cue. Something to make them do the full motion of the skill and not just a teeny tiny little hop through the skill. What I like to do is I like to pretend that this back leg is going to be smashing a panel of glass. So right here, I have my hand, my opposite foot. Now this is how I would tell the kids. All right guys, I have my hand and my opposite foot. Now you get to pretend that there is a great big glass window right here. You get to smash it with your foot. Hiya, ka-chow! All right, again, big glass window right here, ka-chow! That is how I would teach that skill to the little guys. Again, it just makes it more exciting. If you're interested, they're interested. If you're excited, they're excited. With this obstacle, now I feel confident putting it into a circuit. I can have it low to the ground like this. I can put it a little bit higher, so that would be like on a box mat, nothing too high. Or if you really want to throw them for a loop, only lift one side, okay? Have it be on an angle like this. If you can snag 2 low beams to do this with and go opposite like an X, it's awesome, because then you are demonstrating to them that they need to do that step vault both ways, with their left hand and then with their right hand. On to the sloth hang. I do like to switch up my dominant movement patterns so that there's a little bit of taste of every single one every week. I also like to try and incorporate the 4 main obstacles in every single week. So that would be the bar, a wall, the floor, and a vault. So if you are making your own lesson plans, I would definitely suggest really trying to incorporate every dominant movement pattern and every obstacle if you can. Obviously, there are some times that it's just out of your control. You're either only in one half of the gym or something like that, but try your best and incorporate as much as you can. Again, for this skill, it is a 2 hands and 2 feet on the bar hanging underneath skill. 2 hands, 2 feet, okay? And we're pulling ourselves up. You can choose to make this skill a specific way. I like to give the kids freedom of whether they want to travel with their hands going first or their feet going first. I feel like each athlete has a preferred way of doing it, so I will show both ways as long as my class has the ability to listen for that extra 30 seconds. If I'm losing them already because they're thinking about 5,000 other things in the gym, I'm not going to show them the second option. I'm just going to go on to the next skill. I'm going to go from this end of the bar and I'm going to go this way. So 2 hands and 2 feet, and I'm all the way to the end. You will get the odd kid who does not have the stomach muscles or just the overall body coordination to get their feet up on the bar. So if you do have those kids, have a box mat handy so you can throw it at where their feet will be, so they at least have an extra step just to get that achievement of getting their hands and feet both on the bar at the same time. Okay, so if you don't have a bar, I would definitely suggest, first of all, heading out to the playground just to see if there's any horizontal bars you can use for this skill. If that's not an option, there's nothing you can use around, and you do have a bench and possibly maybe some panel mats, I have in the past lifted a bench upside down onto its top, laying down. And then I elevated the ends of it, so whether that's using panel mats stacked up, they were really thick and hard panel mats, they weren't the soft squishy ones. At one point I actually did use 2 other benches. The one time that I did do that, I did have bungee straps with me and I tethered them all together, so there was no possible way that anything was going to tip over on a kid or come apart. So just make sure that your equipment is ready for lots of movement because every kid is not going to use the equipment properly. There will be some sway side to side, jumping, whatever. Not every kid uses the equipment properly, so you have to kind of think about every single way that a kid could use it improperly and plan for that. Moving on to the next one. Holy smokes, you guys, we have made it all the way to the end of this first week of skills. This is the last one. With my introduction to parkour athletes, I will start with a cheese mat. The reason being is that, again, they are little. Sometimes they don't know how to activate their jumping leg muscle as they're rolling. A lot of times they just wanna flop, and we don't want any flopping, we want engaged rolling. So while I'm doing stretch, I will do a frog position, okay? I will make sure everybody knows when I say a frog position, this is the position I mean. My feet are apart and my hands are in the middle. Slight little note here, this is not the best way to do a shoulder roll when you get to the higher levels, okay? This is the way I teach a shoulder roll to the beginners because the little guys need something to envision. So having a frog stance is really easy for them to remember with their shoulder roll. Frog stance with a diamond hand. Once you get to a higher level of parkour, you are wanting to tweak this a bit, but in my intro to parkour class, this is perfectly fine because we're not going to be jumping off of crazy high levels. We're going to stay nice and safe at a level that their body is comfortable at. I start in my frog stance. I take my triangle, all right? I make a triangle with my hands. I'm gonna take my triangle and I'm gonna put it in front of my left foot. That way, when I roll, I'm going to land on this exposed shoulder back here. This is where I'm going to be landing my shoulder roll. I'm landing here and I'm drawing a line from this point to this point on my hip, okay? A diagonal line across my body. Frog stance, triangle. I'm gonna put it in front of my right foot this time, just so you guys can kind of see my hands. I switched the camera just so you can see my hand and my foot placement. So I'm in my frog, I take my triangle, I put it in front of my foot. This way I can drop my shoulder and land on that meaty part, lifting my hips as I go over. Common mistakes you're going to see with this skill. First of all, the most common one is for them to do a somersault. Not a big deal, we just have to tweak it a little bit. The more repetition, the easier it will come. Second obvious problem you're going to see is you're gonna see them landing on their side. You're gonna see them put their triangle down from their frog stance, but kind of flop onto their side and finish like a log roll. So with that one, I would encourage them to bring their hands closer to their feet because more than likely they've walked their hands away from their feet. Bring it nice and close, lift up their hips. So if you are allowed to spot your students, then hold onto their hips and lift their hips for them. That way they know what's expected of them on how high they're supposed to keep their hips. I would say probably 7 or 8 times out of 10, that's gonna fix the problem because then they know what they're supposed to be doing. If that does not fix the problem and they still keep flopping onto their side and they don't know how to jump and activate those muscles, couple different things you can do. You can change up your mat and then they start on the blue floor, putting their hands on the mat, tell them to jump into it. This one, it could potentially not work in your favor because they may not jump into it properly. So I would suggest spotting them the first few of that one if you're gonna do that scenario. The last one I'm gonna suggest, now this one you'll probably see more with the older kids, but I'm gonna tell you anyway, just so that you have all the bits to help your kids. You may see some kids who have really long arms or their arms just seem to get in their way and they land on their elbow. When they do that, they're gonna fully stop their motion and sometimes roll out of it or just sometimes completely stop. With that one, you're going to want to take your student back to the starting pose, that frog pose. Put your triangle down. So say I put my triangle down in front of my right foot. From here, I'm going to take up my left hand and put it underneath my right arm. I call it the thread the needle. This is not a unilateral fix to this problem because they need to place their hands on the floor if they're rolling as they progress their shoulder rolls, because that is what slows down your body, absorbs some of that power, and ultimately saves your face from falling. All right, guys, so this is week 1. I have 9 more of these class progressions for you coming up in the next 9 weeks. Following that, I have an additional 10 weeks for you of recreational parkour lesson plans that we do here at our gym. If you like this video, please hit that likes button and subscribe. If you have a question about any of these demonstrations that I've done, please feel free to leave me a comment below, and I would love to help you guys out any way that I possibly can. Thank you so much, you guys, for watching, and I will see you all next Tuesday. Bye!